The pharmacist looked at her screen, frowned, and then said 4 words I still remember exactly. "Your insurance was canceled." I stared at her, certain I had heard wrong. "Canceled," she nodded. 3 months ago. I had been paying that premium automatically every month, so there was no reason for the policy to disappear. I paid for my prescription myself and walked out of the pharmacy with a receipt in my hand and a question I couldn't shake. Who had canceled my insurance? My name is Evelyn Brennan. I'm 58, widowed, and until that afternoon I believed my financial affairs were under control. My husband, Daniel, had died 2 years earlier after a long illness. During his final months, our younger son Brett had moved back home to help us. After Daniel's death, Brett stayed. He told me I shouldn't be alone and offered to handle errands, bills, and appointments while I adjusted to life without my husband. I accepted because grief had made ordinary tasks exhausting. Our older son, Marcus, lived 2 hours away with his wife and daughter, so Brett was the one physically present. During Daniel's illness, we'd added Brett as an authorized signer to one of our accounts. It had made sense then. That account held roughly $190,000 from our savings, Daniel's life insurance, and the sale of a small lake property. I rarely touched the principal because it was meant to support me later in life. I drove straight from the pharmacy to the bank. Deanne Castellano, a teller I'd known for years, printed 12 months of statements at my request. I sat near the window and began reading. The first few pages looked ordinary. Then I found a $1,500 cash withdrawal I didn't recognize, then a $2,300 withdrawal, then a $6,000 wire transfer. I kept turning pages. Small withdrawals appeared throughout the year, mixed with several larger ones. I took out my phone and started adding them. The total stopped me cold, more than $41,000. "Deanne," I said, "I don't remember making these." She came around the desk and looked at the pages. Her expression changed. "Mrs. Brennan, you're the primary account holder. I can't discuss another signer's activity in detail, but there is only one other authorized person." I didn't need her to say the name. "Brett," she nodded. My first instinct was to defend him. Maybe he'd borrowed money. Maybe he'd misunderstood what he was allowed to use. Maybe there was an explanation I hadn't considered. Then I remembered the new Silverado sitting in my driveway. Brett had told me a friend helped him get it cheaply. I remembered the expensive phone he suddenly owned, the weekend he called a fishing trip, and the restaurant receipts I'd assumed were part of some new business venture. "Can I see who made the in-person withdrawals?" I asked. Deanne hesitated. "You'll need to speak with the branch manager." "Then I will." I went home without calling Brett. He was in the kitchen making dinner when I walked through the door. "Mom, you're back early." I looked at him, then at the meal he'd prepared. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Perfectly fine." I put my purse down and smiled. He didn't notice anything unusual. That was exactly what I wanted. Later that night, while Brett slept upstairs, I opened the bank's online portal. I downloaded every transaction I could access and printed the records. Then I made a second discovery. The insurance payment hadn't failed. The policy had been deliberately canceled. The cancellation request had been submitted electronically 3 months earlier. I stared at the date. That same week, a $4,800 withdrawal had been made from my account. Suddenly, the pharmacist's words made sense. This wasn't a random banking mistake. Someone had been rearranging my finances without telling me. And if Brett was responsible, then the $41,000 wasn't the whole story. The next morning, I called the bank manager and asked for a private meeting. Before hanging up, I made one decision. Brett would not know what I had discovered until I knew everything myself. He had spent months believing his mother wasn't paying attention. I was going to let him keep believing it. The branch manager, Curtis, met me the following Monday morning. I brought the statements, the insurance notice, and a notebook where I'd written down every transaction I couldn't explain. Curtis listened without interrupting. When I finished, he asked one question. "Did you authorize your son to use these funds for personal expenses?" "No." "Did you ever give him permission to make withdrawals without telling you?" "No." He nodded and told me the bank could review the security footage attached to the in-person withdrawals. I waited 4 days before he called. "Mrs. Brennan, I think you should come in." Marcus came with me. Curtis took us into a private office and pulled up the first recording. There was Brett at the counter. He He wasn't nervous. He wasn't hesitant. He handed the teller his card, withdrew cash, and walked away. The next recording showed him doing the same thing, then another. 3 separate visits, 3 withdrawals, 3 signatures. I watched my son's face on that screen and felt something inside me go strangely quiet. I had spent days wondering whether I'd misunderstood the transactions. I hadn't. Curtis told me the bank had identified additional withdrawals connected to Brett's access. He couldn't tell me where every dollar had gone, but the pattern was enough to raise serious concerns. "I want him removed from the account," I said. "We can do that today. And I want the remaining money protected." Curtis helped me open a new account that Brett couldn't access. I transferred what was left and changed every password. I didn't call Brett. I didn't confront him. I went home and acted as if nothing had happened. That evening, he came into the kitchen holding his phone. "Mom, can you send me $5,000? I nearly smiled. The timing was almost too perfect. "What for?" "A business opportunity. It's something I can make money from quickly." "What happened to the apartment you were supposed to get?" His expression tightened. "That didn't work out. And the money Marcus gave you. I paid some bills." "Which bills?" He stared at me. "Why are you asking so many questions?" I looked at him calmly. "Because you're my son." He relaxed, apparently satisfied with the answer. "So, can you help me?" "I'll think about it." He thanked me and walked away. I waited until he was upstairs before calling Marcus. He asked me for more money. Marcus swore under his breath. "Mom, don't give him anything." "I won't. Did you tell him you know?" "No," Marcus paused. "Then don't let him keep talking." That night I searched the dates of Brett's withdrawals against the things he'd told me. The new truck appeared immediately, so did the casino weekend. Then I found repeated payments to a woman named Meline. $300, $500, $800. $2,000. The payments were coming from an account Brett had never mentioned to me. I photographed the records and put everything back. The next morning I asked Marcus if he knew the name. He went silent. "Where did you hear it?" I asked. "I've seen her with Brett." "Where?" "At a casino outside Nashville." I sat back in my chair. The fishing trip had never been a fishing trip. And suddenly, I understood why Brett had been so confident when he asked me for another $5,000. He wasn't trying to recover from a financial problem. He was trying to keep one hidden. For the next 2 weeks, I became very careful. I didn't accuse Brett. I didn't change the way I spoke to him. I didn't even tell him that his access to the account was already gone. I wanted to know what he would do when he believed the money was still available. He continued living as though nothing had changed. He ordered takeout, bought expensive clothes, and talked constantly about a business deal that supposedly needed more capital. Then one afternoon, I heard him speaking on the phone outside. I wasn't trying to listen, but when I heard my name, I stopped. "She doesn't know," he said. There was a pause. "I'm telling you, she trusts me completely." My stomach tightened. "I'll get the money, she'll give it to me." I stepped away before he came inside. That was the moment I stopped wondering whether Brett understood what he was doing. He did. He knew exactly what he was hiding. The following morning, I met with Carla Whitfield, the lawyer who had handled Daniel's estate. I showed her everything I'd collected. She studied the bank footage, the statements, the insurance cancellation, and the payments to Meline. "Evelyn, don't confront him again until we've secured everything." "I've already removed him from the account." She nodded. "Good. Now we document the rest." I asked her whether I could recover the money. She explained that because Brett had been an authorized signer, the legal process would depend on proving that he used the funds for purposes he had never been authorized to use them for. The bank's footage helped. So did the transaction history. But the insurance cancellation worried her most. "If he deliberately canceled your coverage to redirect money or create financial pressure, that's important," she said. "Find out exactly how the cancellation was submitted." I contacted the insurance company. They sent me the record. The cancellation request had been made online using an email address connected to Brett's account. The date was 3 months earlier. The same week, Brett had withdrawn nearly $5,000 from my account. I stared at the document for a long time. He hadn't simply taken money. He had interfered with something that protected my health and future. That changed the way I saw the situation. I no longer wanted to know whether Brett had made a mistake. I wanted him held accountable for every decision he'd made. Carla helped me formally notify the bank and begin the recovery process. Meanwhile, Brett continued his performance. One evening, he came home carrying groceries and kissed my forehead. "Mom, you're looking good." "Thank you. I think things are finally turning around for me." "That's wonderful." He sat at the table. "Actually, I might need another 10,000 soon." I looked up. 10,000. It's a really good opportunity. What kind? He started explaining a construction investment, but the details changed 3 times in 5 minutes. I listened until he finished. "I'll see what I can do," I said. His shoulders relaxed. "I knew I could count on you." After he went upstairs, I called Carla. "He's asking for 10,000 now. Don't give him a cent." "I won't." Then she said something that changed my plan. "Evelyn, if he believes he can still get money from you, let him believe it. The more he talks, the more evidence you may get." So I did exactly that. I let Brett believe his mother was still the same woman he'd been manipulating for months. But I had already moved the money, preserved the evidence, and started the legal process. Brett thought he was setting another trap for me. He had no idea he was walking deeper into the one I'd built for him. The confrontation happened on a Tuesday evening. Brett came home expecting dinner. Instead, he found me sitting at the kitchen table with a thick folder in front of me. He stopped in the doorway. "What's that?" "Sit down." Something in my voice made him obey. He pulled out the chair slowly. I opened the folder and placed the first bank statement in front of him. "Recognize this?" He looked at the page. "Mom, I can explain." I put down the second statement. "And this? I told you I was going to pay it back. You took $41,000. It wasn't like that." "Then tell me what it was like." He looked at the papers. "I was going through a hard time. So you took my money. I was going to replace it." "When?" He had no answer. I placed the security footage photographs on the table. His face went pale. "You went to the bank?" "Yes. You had them watching me. You were taking money from my account. I didn't need to watch you. The bank already had the footage." He pushed the photographs away. "Mom, please. You told me you were helping me after your father died." "I was. You told me you were staying because you were worried about me." "I was worried about you." "Then why did you cancel my insurance?" His head snapped up. That was the first question he couldn't answer. "What?" I slid the insurance document toward him. "This cancellation request was submitted using an email connected to you." He stared at it. "I didn't cancel it." "Then explain why it came from your account." "Someone must have hacked me." I looked at him. "And the 41,000? I was going to repay it." "The casino." Silence. "Meline," his jaw tightened. "She has nothing to do with this." "Then why did you send her thousands of dollars?" He looked away. I already had my answer. Brett finally leaned back and covered his face. "I got into debt." "How much?" "I don't know." "You do know." He lowered his hands. "More than I could handle." "So you decided I would handle it." He started crying. I didn't. I'd already cried enough before he knew I was investigating. "Mom, I'm sorry." "Sorry doesn't restore an insurance policy. Sorry doesn't put $41,000 back into an account. And sorry doesn't erase the fact that you looked me in the eyes every day while doing this." He stood up. "What are you going to do?" "Everything through the proper channels." His expression changed. "Are you pressing charges?" "I haven't made that decision." "Please don't." "Why?" "Because I'm your son." I looked at him for a long moment. "That's exactly why I gave you chances you didn't deserve." He started pleading. He promised to sell the truck. He promised to repay everything. He promised to stop gambling. I listened until he ran out of promises. Then I gave him one final condition. "You will not ask me for money again. You will not access my accounts. You will not use your relationship with me to avoid the consequences of what you did." He nodded. "And if you want any relationship with me in the future, you will rebuild it without my money." He wiped his face. "Do you still love me?" That question hurt more than anything else he'd said. "Yes," I answered. "But loving you doesn't mean protecting you from yourself." Brett left that night with a folder containing the repayment agreement Carla had prepared. For the first time since he moved into my house, he walked out without asking me to solve his problems. I watched his car disappear down the street. Then I closed the door and finally allowed myself to cry. Brett's life changed quickly once my money was no longer available. He sold the Silverado because he couldn't afford the payments. The casino trips stopped. Meline disappeared from his life almost immediately. The business opportunity he had described turned out to be nothing more than another excuse to obtain cash. He found construction work through Marcus, but Marcus made it clear that he would help him find a job, not rescue him financially. Brett began making monthly payments toward what he'd taken. The first payment was small. I accepted it anyway, not because the amount mattered, but because it was the first thing he'd given me without expecting something in return. Meanwhile, Carla continued working with the bank. Some transactions were disputed, some were recoverable, and others would require further legal action. I decided not to chase every dollar immediately. I wanted Brett to understand that repayment was his responsibility, not another problem I would manage for him. Months passed. Our conversations became shorter. Then one Sunday, Brett showed up at my door without warning. He looked exhausted. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside. He sat in the living room and looked around. "I haven't been here in a while." "No," he nodded. "I miss this house." I said nothing. "I miss Dad." That was the first time he'd mentioned his father since the confrontation. "Me too," I said. Brett stared at the floor. "I found something in my truck." He handed me a small envelope. Inside was an old photograph of Daniel with our 2 boys when they were children. "I kept it because Dad always told me something." "What?" "He said being the man of the family didn't mean taking what belonged to everyone else. It meant making sure everyone else was okay." I looked at the photograph. Brett's eyes filled with tears. "I forgot that." "You didn't forget," I said gently. "You ignored it." He nodded. "You're right." Then he told me he had started attending counseling for his gambling problem. He had stopped borrowing money from friends. He was working 6 days a week. He wasn't asking me to forgive him. He simply wanted me to know that he was trying. I believed that he was trying. But forgiveness wasn't something I could give him because he asked for it. It would have to come slowly. "You don't have to come back into my life all at once," I told him. "Just keep doing what you're doing." He nodded. "Can I visit again?" I thought about it. "Call first." He smiled for the first time. "Okay." After he left, I called Marcus. He came by. "How did it go?" "Different." Marcus was quiet. "Do you think he's changed?" I looked through the window at Brett's car disappearing down the street. "I don't know yet." And I didn't. But I knew something else. Brett had finally reached the point where my money couldn't save him, my forgiveness couldn't erase what he'd done, and his excuses couldn't change the evidence. He had to become a different man because there was no longer anyone left to carry him. That was the consequence I had wanted from the beginning, not his destruction, but the end of the life he'd built by taking from me. 2 years after that first trip to the pharmacy, I received the final repayment. Brett had returned every dollar he could prove he owed me. Some money had been recovered through the bank, some through the legal process, and the rest he had paid himself. He came to my house that afternoon with the final receipt. "It's done," he said. I looked at the paper. "Yes." He sat down. "I know you probably don't trust me the way you used to." "I don't," he nodded. "I understand." That answer told me more than any apology could have. There was no argument, no guilt trip, no request for another chance, just acceptance. We sat quietly for a while. Then Brett said, "Mom, I used to think you were weak because you trusted me." I looked at him. "And now I think I was the weak one." I didn't respond. He continued. "You didn't destroy me when you found out. You could have. Instead, you made me face what I'd done." I smiled faintly. "That was your choice." "I know." He stood up. "Can I come for dinner Sunday?" "Call me first." He laughed. "Still making me call?" "Absolutely." He left smiling. I watched him walk to his car, and for the first time I didn't feel anger when I saw him. I felt distance. Healthy distance. The kind that allows 2 people to have a relationship without pretending the past never happened. I still check my bank statements every month. I still manage my own finances. I still keep my passwords private. But I no longer do those things because I'm afraid of Brett. I do them because I finally understand that independence isn't something you surrender just because someone offers to help. And every once in a while, I think about the pharmacist who looked at her computer screen and said those 4 words that changed my life. "Your insurance was canceled." She had no idea what those words would uncover. She didn't know they would lead me to $41,000 missing from my account, a son living a secret life, a bank investigation, a lawyer, and a confrontation I never imagined having with my own child. But the biggest surprise wasn't what I discovered about Brett. It was what I discovered about myself. I thought revenge meant making him hurt the way I had hurt. Instead, I found something better. I protected what remained, made him repay what he took, refused to cover his mistakes, and rebuilt my life without waiting for him to become the son I wanted him to be. Brett lost the money he never earned, the lifestyle he had built on lies, and the easy access he'd once had to my trust. I lost something too. I lost the illusion that being someone's mother meant you had to keep saving them. But what I gained was worth far more. I gained my independence back. I gained my peace. And I gained the courage to look directly at the truth, even when that truth wore the face of someone I loved. The last time Brett left my house, he stopped at the door and turned around. "Mom." "Yes. Thank you for not giving up on me." I thought about everything that had happened. "I didn't save you, Brett. You saved yourself when you finally decided to take responsibility." He nodded and walked away. I closed the door, went into my study, and looked at the old bank statements one final time before putting them away. I didn't need to keep checking them anymore. The story was over. The money was accounted for. The truth was out. And the woman who had walked into that pharmacy confused and trusting was not the same woman who walked out. I had learned that betrayal can take something from you, but it doesn't get to decide what happens next. And sometimes, the most satisfying revenge isn't destroying the person who hurt you. It's building a life so strong that their betrayal becomes only one chapter in a story that belongs to you.